to another episode of Soul Wilds. I'm Kate.
And I'm Katie.
Welcome on in. This is our Halloweeny, spoopy, fun episode. How about it?
Yes, we're going to jump into some Halloween stuff and share some experiences of our own. So hopefully it's spooky. We'll see.
Yes, I think it will be spooky. We had to do it. We had to, we're in crunch time. We had to make this episode because, Halloween is next week, right? So
I know. How crazy is that?
It's Wednesday, correct?
Halloween is Tuesday.
Oh, it's Tuesday. Yes, it is Tuesday.
Yeah,
that's
the 31st.
That's true. 31st is coming up. But first, we kind of wanted to hit on some lore of Halloween. Where did it come from? Why do we do it? Why are we still doing it, right? I mean, it's kind of like an everlasting tradition since, I don't even know. It was pre-colonization of the Celts. So it is a Celtic or Celtic festival, which you may or may not know if you're tuning in. But
I didn't know, so
yeah.
You're not alone.
Yeah.
If you didn't.
That's okay if you didn't know, right? That's why
Tell me
we're
more.
here.
You mean it's not about ghouls and ghosts and zombies?
It is rooted in the traditions of Samhain or Samhain, as some would pronounce it. It's spelled Samhain. It's part of the witch's wheel of the year. It is known as the last harvest. So obviously a lot of these traditions or feast days, as the Christians would have called them, coordinate to harvest. They coordinate to the change of the seasons and when people were able to collect food. But it is believed that the veil is the thinnest. This is the thinnest it will be in the year. So this will allow spirits to pierce the veil. So I think we'll all go ahead.
Share what is the veil. Let's share that.
The veil. So the veil could technically be considered the boundary between that which we see, right? So us, our 3D tangible life, and the spiritual world, the soul wilds, so to speak, if you will. Sorry, my earphone fell out. But what do you think, Katie? What's your definition?
I think that's a good description. When I think of a veil, I think of the separation of us and that other world. And only recently am I getting into the ideas of other dimensions. So to me, there's a veil there as well, where it separates us from other possible dimensions if they exist. I'm open to it. I'm not saying I believe in that, but if it is true, there has to be some degree of non-physical separation of energies. Right? Or else it would be pretty chaotic.
It would be rather chaotic. And those who are mediums know how chaotic that can be, right? Because not everyone can see. Not everyone is sensitive to the veil. Yeah.
And I'm sure there are specific areas, I feel like. And this is all based on opinion and just from watching a lot of TV and documentaries. But it seems like there may be areas that veil is thinner and you're able to more easily pierce that veil or open it.
One could say it is a portal.
Yeah.
Or a vortex.
This is a little going down a different road, but I was watching, oh man, I should probably know, but it was a documentary and it was talking about, communication with the other side. And there was a point in the documentary where they were per se communicating with either extraterrestrial beings or spirits that had passed, one or the other, that were guiding them to pierce this veil. That was like their goal, right? Is to which is it got pretty scary, but
It
there were
can be.
times where they're like the door's closed but the window is open.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to find the window to pierce the veil to open the door. But then they're like, do we want to open the door?
Yeah, that's the
Um, Who's
aged
guiding us
question.
right now? Yeah, is this
Yeah.
person innocently trying to help us connect to the other side, or is there something much more sinister about it? And then
Yeah.
there's that comfort in like, maybe we never will, or maybe we never should, but
Yeah.
something brought them to that place where they got very close to
Mm.
communicating to the other side in a space where that veil was supposedly thinner.
Yeah.
But I
We
could
could
keep
talk
talking
about
about
that.
it, but
Yeah, we could definitely talk about portals, vortexes, ley lines. There's a ton of them around where I live, apparently. Yeah. And we could talk about
sheesh.
the national forests as well, the national
Yeah.
parks.
Oh my gosh, put
Uh,
that on the docs, and then I can bring up this documentary again and I'll remember the name of it.
Okay, guys, the name of the docu-series that I'm talking about is called Hellier, and it's about a group of paranormal investigators who are investigating more so extraterrestrial beings, and they get mixed up into more paranormal stuff as well, and it's pretty creepy, pretty cool. Check it out.
no, it's true, and this is just a time of year where the Celts believed, and I mean there are many other cultures that also believed certain times of the year. The veil is it's just thinner. You're more likely, and they celebrated it with bonfires, gatherings, feasts, traditions like the jack-o'-lantern making, maybe maybe like wreath making, all kinds of things to ward off, you know, evil spirits, so to speak, or spirits you just didn't want to necessarily interact with, because obviously there's a lot of lore and superstition, and I'm a little stitious myself, so I'm not gonna knock it. And it
Let
began.
me jump into that really quick. Sorry, that just made me think.
Yeah.
Well, one time in the future, I know we're gonna get more into like rituals and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But do you know of any like simple rituals people can do right now for protection? I know a lot of it's circle based, creating a circle around your home.
Okay.
I've seen it use like candles and certain crystals and like burning sage and other things like that, and really kind of closing in on your perimeters, I guess.
Yes.
Do you have any like do you have anything to add to that? Or I know mine's not like specific, but
yeah. I mean, there's a couple things I do. One of them being I kind of made I don't know what you would call it, a combination of herbs. I used eggshells, salt. I made my own black salt, actually, which is you can bless the salt, quote unquote, put in your own intentions into sea salt or pink Himalayan salt or pure white salt. And mine, of course, would have been protection. And there's also someone here in the area that I buy from who also blesses their salt. So that's where I get mine from. I get mine from her. And I combine it all with the intention of protecting my home from anyone that I don't want here, whether that be someone who would cause me harm or even people that I may know that don't have good intentions. And I've even protected my own space from myself. Like if I'm coming with some bad energy, like I need to fix it, right? So I put them in the four corners around the perimeter of my home. I plant not necessarily specific plants, just because I do live in an area where we get a lot of rain, so I kind of have to pick plants that are okay and hardy with a lot of precipitation. But in general, you can talk to your plants, and I ask my plants to protect me, right? And I'm a huge plant person. I imagine sigils on my walls. I've even drawn them with water that I've put intention to, or oil on my door to protect me. And we could talk about sigils in the future too, but one specifically that means protection. And I do have crystals around my home as well. I have a lot of things. Some things I'm just not even going to get into because you don't need to know about it. Not you, but anyone else, because it's just for me. But some of it can be a simple visualization that you imagine, whether it's a ring of light or a ring of void and darkness around your home to protect it as well. How about you? Enough about me.
Well, it sounds like there's not one right way to do it. There's not like one ritual to do for protection, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's dependent on what brings you peace. Mm-hmm. So that's what that kind of shows me. But I had a couple thoughts too of like, I saw this meme the other day that was like, I staged my house to get rid of bad energy and I woke up outside. Yeah. I thought of that just now when you're like trying to protect from myself sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my.
But you know, I have to say, I have not gotten too deep into rituals. And I know I have you and a couple other friends that do these things more frequently. And I try to push myself to do the things, but I don't. I have a lot of things to do it, but I just haven't. And it's interesting that sign of protection for me, I kind of like, I laugh in the face of danger, right? Like Lion King, like I'm like, bring it. Like I want to see what you got, you know, like I'm not afraid, I guess, of what, I mean, there have been times where I've been like, go away.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
And there are times where I'm like, this is interesting. What the fuck you want? What you want from me? Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I haven't partook in too many of those ritual things. So I can't say that I've done really anything specific for protection other than meditation and setting intention around myself.
And maybe that's how you do it.
Yeah, maybe. I'm a very visual person. I'll bring that up probably every time we meet here. Yeah. But, you know, I like to visualize what that protective energy looks like around me. So sort of like a shield, like my own veil in a way.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I don't know. It's just your approach. You don't want to approach anything necessarily out of fear because some things feed off of fear. But I'm a take the measures type of person just because of my own experiences, especially like I mentioned in our first episode of being young and I didn't have protective measures and it was not pleasant. So I'm kind of like, take the measures that you need to take. Don't be disrespectful. Know that sometimes what you're dealing with is not something that you want to mess with. And if you want to F around and find out, go for it. But I'm not someone who wants to do that when it comes to the spiritual realm. But I never want to do it because it's out of like fear. But you also want to, at least me, I'm like, I want to approach it with also a level of respect as well. So I don't mind ritual. I like ritual. The ritual is to center and focus your energy. That's what ritual is. And it can be to honor your ancestors. I connect deeply with my ancestors. I have a lot of respect for the ones that I've connected with. And we vibe and they help me. And it's a beautiful relationship I have. And a lot of it's rooted in that as well. My ancestry and my respect for and love for my ancestors for sure. But so Samhain, kind of back to those roots of where it comes from. So it takes place at the midpoint between the autumn equinox and the winter solstice, marking the end of the harvest and the beginning of winter, or the dark half of the year. So we are now going into some darkness, which isn't always a bad thing. You need the darkness and the light. I'm all about the duality. It's a festival of remembrance rooted in pagan tradition. And during this time, they believe that the gods were made visible to humankind, and the barriers between the living and the dead would break down. So this was an allowance for souls, ghosts, and fairies in their belief system to wander the mortal plane. And I mean, I'm not knocking it, man. And they did that. And then due to spread of Christianity, November 1st became All Saints Day. And I also got a shout out to my my roots in Mexico, that is also El Dia de los Muertos. So I'm setting up a little altar or ofrenda for, I do have some Mexican ancestors. I painted a little figure, a little chihuahua for, I guess he would be like my great great grandfather. He was born in Chihuahua, Mexico, and it's on my altar. And I got some fake marigolds, and
I love that.
yeah,
Oh
I think
my
we're gonna print out his
gosh.
picture. Abuelo, he'll be on my altar. So
Oh,
yeah,
I love that.
it's that as well. So that'll be November 1st, and you can, if you are also an altar person, you can remember those ancestors that you were close to, and you can have their favorite foods, or if they had a favorite wine, you can pour a glass for them. And you can
Maybe.
have, yeah, maybe two, especially if grandma loved her wine, or whiskey, or, Jose Cuervo or whatever, tequila. Like, if that's what they love, that's what they love, their food. You don't have to leave it out till it rots. But you'll know maybe when they've come, and it's like the energy of the food, the remembrance of the taste of the food for them, and it's just a beautiful way, I think, to connect to them, because I like I said, I cherish those who have passed, and
Yeah.
I
I mean,
miss
even
them.
to honor that in yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like to give yourself space to feel that love again in
Yeah.
some way.
Yeah. And real quick, a fun little story, and then we're gonna talk. Katie's definitely gonna share some of her experiences, and I may share one or two of my
Only two.
own. She
You
has
gotta
some
save
cool
some for
experiences.
later.
Yeah, we gotta keep them coming back.
I don't even know if you've heard the ones that I'm about to tell. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Oh, I'm
I don't
excited.
know.
I wouldn't be surprised. I always love a good story, and I love to hear people's experiences because they're so cool.
Might be crazy, but
Might be crazy, but we gotta get t-shirts. Those are gonna be our t-shirts.
yeah. And we'll have our email here somewhere linked, and please share. I want to hear
We want to hear your
listener
stories.
experiences, like ghost
Yeah.
stories or spirit experiences, scary or not scary. They're so interesting, and how different they can be. So
Yeah.
please share.
Yeah.
Please share.
So real quick, I'll share a story about the jack-o'-lantern, because I carved a jack-o'-lantern. He had Jack's face from Nightmare Before Christmas. The jack-o'-lantern has a long history with Halloween. They haven't always had faces, but and they haven't always been pumpkins. Their origin comes from an Irish myth about Stingy Jack, who tricked the devil for his own monetary gain. When Jack died, God didn't allow him into heaven, and the devil didn't let him into hell. So Jack was sentenced to roam the earth for eternity. In Ireland, people started to carve demonic faces out of turnips to frighten away Jack's wandering soul. When Irish immigrants moved to the U.S., they began carving jack-o'-lanterns from pumpkins, as these were native to the region. They became associated with Halloween based on the Celtic festival Samhain. In the 8th century CE, the Roman Catholic Church moved All Saints' Day, a day celebrating the Church's saints, to November 1st. This meant that All Hallows' Eve, or Halloween, fell on October 31st. Traditions from Samhain remained, such as wearing disguises to hide yourself from the souls wandering around your home. The folklore about Stingy Jack was quickly incorporated into Halloween, and we've been carving pumpkins or turnips ever since. So interesting. So interesting how that was assimilated, and it's still present today after hundreds of years, right? That's great. Thousands of years.
I don't know about you, but I want to carve a turnip. I never did that.
That sounds difficult.
Never did that. I want to do that. I know,
Yeah.
right? I shake like a leaf, but I will definitely give it a shot. Like what about, and now I'm thinking of all these other vegetables, like a carrot or like a beet. How cool would a beet look? It's just so purple. Sorry.
And last thing, I thought this was interesting because like I said, I'm very much into plants and plant magic. A really good podcast to follow, they're going to be making a new season, is Elder Hour. We can link it in our links area in the description. They have a really great podcast. But obviously there was lore around witches as well, but these also ward off monsters and the ghoulies. But you could plant rue, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, mullein, mugwort, witch hazel, tansy, elderberry, yarrow, garlic for the vamps, garlic for the vampires. Obviously lavender. Always plant rosemary and lavender by your garden door. And I think it's like cinnamon is also a really good one. There's just a long list of things that would have been warding off. I think having like Bridget's cross, you weave it out of wheat, might be, it's for prosperity in your home, but it could also be protection. And truly anything you make yourself can be infused. A wreath, you can make a cool wreath for the season if that's what you want to do. Lots of craftiness out there. But yeah, that's the lore. So now let's get to our spooktacular stories.
Spooktacular. I guess I'm starting this.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Oh, which one to start with? Well, let me give you a little background before I jump too much into this. So I didn't start experiencing things until that Reiki session that I talked about in our last session that opened me up to a whole new spiritual world. And that's when not just visualizations during meditations had started to occur more and more and deeper, but also it highly increased my experiences, like to the degree where like Mantio, my cat, was like meowing at shit that wasn't there. Like everyone, I feel like anyone who has a pet who experiences this stuff, like the pet freaking knows.
They do.
They know what's up. Like
cats are
and I would see shadows all the time, and I was like, you know, I come from a psychology background, so I'm like, this is not mental health, right? Like, this is not delusion. This is not schizophrenia.
Mm-hmm.
I am past the age that typically happens. Regardless, it's not it. Like, something's happening. There's shadows everywhere. Yeah. But it really, really heightened at that point in my life. So given that, two of my experiences I'll share today, one of them was within a meditative state, and one of them was very much awake. So I'll start with the meditation. I went to a gong bath. Ooh. If you don't know what a gong bath is, you're missing out. If you like sound therapy, if you also have never experienced sound therapy, I encourage you to give it a shot. Different people have different vibes when they do sound therapy. Sometimes it's really masculine and deep and heavy, and sometimes it's more feminine and light and airy. It really depends on the instructor that is actually engaging in the different sounds. But it really deepens your meditation. And if you're someone who struggles with relaxing and getting out of your own head, adding that element in sound therapy helps quiet everything, and you go to a whole new place. Shout out to Judy, who works near me in Maryland. She's a phenomenal like sound therapy, yoga instructor, all the things. I have literally sent friends and family that have never done that or don't believe that to her, and they've come out saying like, I forgot what my name was. Yeah. And like, these are people whose mind never quiets, right? Yeah. I mean, there's still some people in my life I'm working on getting in there. But anyway, so Judy's I went got to the Riz. Oh my gosh, she's amazing, guys. Maybe I can link her stuff below too if you live in the area, but she's one person and she's growing really fast. So, but this gong bath I went to, this one was not with Judy. It was with someone else who I used to really respect in my yoga teaching. His name's Greg. And I went to several of his gong baths. Every time was a different experience, but this one time specifically, it was extremely deep, extremely masculine. And I fell into this really deep meditative state. Now, I set the intention of what I wanted to do that day because I know when I go into deep meditation like that, I travel. And because I knew that, I like to set, if possible, an intention beforehand of like what answers I'm looking for or people I'm trying to speak to. So at this time, I'm like, my dad's struggling. I feel like I have daddy issues. It's like every episode I'm gonna be talking about my dad, but I love my dad. He's still there. So he's still around. But I went into this meditation and I was like, I need to talk to my dad's spirit guides because they are absent and not helping him along his path in life. Like he needs some peace and some guidance because he just lives in this constant state of I think stress and just this trauma mind, just based off of his life and how it formed. But so I went in and I was like, I need to have a conversation with these people. and tell them, or spirits, I talk to them like people, but with these spirits, and tell them that they're not doing their job. I had such a nose up approach to this, right? So I fall into this state and I experienced a lot of things, but there was this point where it got really dark. And I'm standing, and it feels in this state, it is not like a dream. It is not a thought. It does not feel like daydreaming. It felt like my real physical body in this place. So it really felt real. Like, I can't stress that enough. And I'm standing on an edge of a cliff. And I have no internal feelings. I have no feelings of anxiety, stress, fear, anger, nothing. I feel nothing, and I just fall. And like in my head, I'm like, I'm committing suicide right now. Wow. Which it was frightening because I hit the ground and I didn't feel anything. Wow. And I was still breathing. I didn't feel anything. I was in one piece, but I committed suicide. I walked right off the cliff. I didn't even jump. I just walked right off. And at the bottom of this cliff, it looked like I was in a canyon, and it had like dried up water. Like, it used to be a river, but it's not anymore. So I started walking, and I see this huge ship coming toward me. Like a military, it was a military ship, but I didn't know that at the time. And I don't even remember how I got on the ship, but eventually I got on the ship, and it's just sailing down this non-existent river. And I'm on the ship, and it has these soldiers in these like almost khaki colored uniforms, hats, everything. And they're all doing their business, doing their work like I'm not even there. And all of a sudden, this young man comes up to me, and he pulls out a quarter from behind his ear, like a magic trick. And immediately I knew it was my grandfather at a young age. And he was interacting with me like he was interacting with me when I was young. But even when I was young, he was not that young, right? So it didn't make sense, but it did. And it was just a mutual understanding. We knew who each other was. Wow. And another soldier had called for him, and they're like, hey, Charlie, over here, right? With this accent. And he like turns around to interact with this guy, and then everyone was very much like, she's not supposed to be here. Right? And then it got very alarming of like, oh shit, like, and then I felt unwelcomed. Like, I had a genuine feeling of like, and this is the first feeling I felt this whole time of like you need to get out of here quick. Like, it's dangerous. It was scary. It got dark really fast. Yeah. And I've never known my grandfather as Charlie, ever. Like, no. So when I didn't even know his name was Charles. Well, wow. I knew I've seen it on things, but I've never actually heard anybody or interacted with him with the name Charles. His name was Buddy. I don't know where that came from, but that was his name, Buddy. Like, that's what I knew my grandfather as. If someone, when I was young, would have asked me, what's your grandfather's name, I would have said Buddy, because I heard nothing different ever other than Grandpa, obviously, or Dad, which my parents would call him. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I feel like I'm ripped out of there. Like, I have no more control over what I'm doing. Like, something else does. And I come back into my physical body during this gong bath. And it's not the end of the gong bath. It's not like I was following along with it. And then I was like terrified. Like, did I just kill myself and go to hell? Like, what just happened to me? Because like in my Catholic brain, I'm like heaven, hell. But in my like rational brain, I'm like, that doesn't exist. Where was I? Right. And then like, if that was my grandfather, it seemed like he was stuck in a memory. Like, he wasn't able to escape where he was. He was stuck in a memory, kind of like a purgatory. And it was just like, the fuck just happened to me? And I was upset. I called my stepmom, bawling. I was shaking for hours after. Like, physically could not stop shaking. And I told her about it. And she's like, your grandfather, he used to be in the military. And I was like, I kind of knew that. I knew him more as a police officer because he, like, military was so early on in his life. I didn't know anything about that. But I did remember seeing one picture of him at one point when I was young, I guess. But he wasn't in khaki clothes or anything like that. But I started explaining what they were wearing, and she's like, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I can't remember if he was National Guard or something like that, where they wore that exact clothing. And I'm like, shut up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, maybe it still wasn't him. They called him Charlie. And she's like, yeah, that was what all of his buddies called him in the military. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
And like, I can't talk to my dad about this stuff because he would tell me I'm completely cuckoo. And he also has a hard time talking about my grandfather because they were best friends. But yeah, there was that experience. So I'm getting like out of breath, like right now, like my
Just
heart's beating fast. It was super traumatic for me because it felt real and it felt dark and not a good dark way. And I didn't like that.
Yeah, the spirit world isn't all rainbows and sunshine, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
That happened.
That was awesome.
Guess that's what happens when you force your way in, right? Because I was like, this is what I'm doing, and I'm gonna tell him what's up. I had other experiences during that time, but that was not the pleasant one. So
a loving correction, as you will. Sometimes they do. Sometimes that happens. What's your other story, though? There was another story.
Okay, yeah, my other story. This one was, I was not in a meditative state. I was very awake. I was visiting Jim Thorpe. It's actually a cute, fun town if you want to have a weekend trip, not gonna lie. And then I'd say do like, what's it called? Instead of staying at like a hotel or something, you can just like rent out someone's house.
Airbnb?
No, it's like a website. I forget what it's called.
It's like Airbnb.
Yeah. So essentially, yeah, but I would go that route for sure. But so we were staying at someone's house that they were renting out on this website that we went through, and it's supposed to be a cool little historic town in the sense of back during some famine, and I'm terrible with history, so please bear with me. In Ireland, and
potato famine,
possibly, and farmers and other workers would send their families to the United States while they continued to work, or vice versa. They came here to continue to work to send money to their family to survive. And a lot of the Irishmen came to Jim Thorpe as one of the areas where they worked. And they were treated less than. They were basically slaves in that area and weren't allowed to eat at certain places, drink at certain places. Like, they had to live a very secluded life because they were seen as just poor workers who did not belong there. And there's some really cool history there of like, you can go in the jail, and there's this whole story. And it's pretty cool. If you go there, check it out. I still question it, but there was this one Irishman, and they were smaller men, apparently. That's how they like talk about it. And this one inmate had completely lathered himself in butter and soap that he had stashed away from every day. They got butter with their food and soap to shower. So he started stashing away. So he lathered it all over himself and slipped between the bars and escaped. But he realized he escaped butt naked with all this stuff all over him in a place he has no idea, can't speak the language, doesn't know has nowhere to go. So he had to sneak back into the jail because he literally had nothing to go to. Anyway, that's kind of sidetracked, but it's pretty cool. Check all that out if you go. So we're staying at this person's house, and it's nighttime, and I'm getting ready for bed, and I lay down and the lights go off. And I notice like a fog, and it was strange, and I didn't know if it was just the way the light was coming in the window. So I checked that out. It wasn't that. And it was like getting denser at the edge of the bed, and then I made out it was like the shape of a man. And I could make it out very well at this point. It wasn't just like when you see something in the dark and you're like, oh, is that my jacket? Or is that like something? Right? No, this was like a legit dude. He just looked like mist or fog, like a dense mist or dense fog. And he was pacing back and forth around the bed, looking at me, but looking angry and confused. Like, why am I here? Why are you here? You don't belong here. This isn't supposed to be your place. Something like that. I felt like he was looking at it as like, I expected to see someone else.
Yeah.
And I felt really scared. And I like covered myself up, and I was like, my heart was racing, and I was trying to like wake up my partner at the time that was like next to me. And I was just like, what is it? Like, I was scared. And I kept like moving away from the edge of the bed because it just was very startling, because I knew I believed in something, but I never had truly experienced a ghost or spirit per se. And like, I'm in complete denial, but it's so clear that there was no denying it. And I couldn't get it out of my mind. And so what eventually I just moved to the living room because it wasn't going away.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, please go away, you're scaring me. And then at one point it was gone. Like, he was gone. He didn't say anything. I couldn't hear anything, but he looked visibly angry, confused, and afraid. And so
he probably was.
Yeah. So, you know, I couldn't make out too much specifics about what he was wearing or nothing like that, because I was so afraid, honestly. And my partner didn't even see it. He was sleeping, whatever.
Of course, right?
We also had gotten in an argument, which was not unusual before bed, and like, we weren't talking at that time anyway, so he was probably either purposely ignoring me or asleep.
I couldn't have asked him for help anyway.
He probably thought I was making it up, but it was legit, and it was scary, and I couldn't get it out of my mind. And the next day, I can't remember if we had like a full day of events and came back, but when we were leaving, on the porch there was a stone wall, and in that stone wall there were crevices, and you could see little trinkets here and there. And then this one was a trinket of a man that looked just fucking like the guy I had seen the other night in the bedroom.
Wow.
And it was a soldier. And I was like, the trinkets in there, you could tell, were meaningful. They were for people they cared about, loved, pictures, things like that. So I'm like, oh my God, did I just see like this owner's like dead brother from the military, like that passed away and like came back to visit him and was confused that I was there, or confused that he was dead? Like, I don't know. And like, and it's still in my brain heavily. And I think about it and I'm like, man, I wish I could reach out to that owner and just be like, hey, can you explain this? Or like,
so-and-so was
did you have someone who passed away? It's so random. Maybe they'll listen to this one day, but like, I'm still convinced that it was the man, some man who owned or had to do with owning that place. It's really, I just in my heart know it was a brother or someone like a brother to this person.
Wow.
And I'm still very curious about it. But that was my first awake experience with a spirit. And it was a lot of emotion that I got more emotion from it than I did anything else. Like, I could feel what he was feeling, and it wasn't pleasant. So that's my stories. Those are my stories.
Yeah. No, there's tons of, I mean, just everywhere across the United States, there's tons of history, but especially where you were, I mean, you figure Philadelphia is not far away, so there's history from like 1776, Revolutionary War, then Gettysburg's not that far from there, and it's a hotbed. It's literally like a hotbed for just all types of stuff. And I mean, I'm sure like if I came into my house and expected someone else to be there and see some strange person who's not who I thought, that would be jarring. I'm sure he was equally as just like, what the heck is happening? Just disoriented.
It felt that way. Yeah,
'Cause
very
spirits
much.
that can happen. It can
And I
happen. You're
felt
still,
sad for him, but I
yeah,
mostly felt afraid.
yeah. Well, yeah, because you're like, what? Who are you? And he's like, who are you? It's like,
I'm like, oh,
what are
hell no. And now is not the
Yeah.
time. Like,
Yeah, I'm trying to sleep.
or lay here and be mad at my partner.
Yeah,
like,
at my boyfriend.
I'm not trying to, like, oh my gosh.
I don't want to have to ask him for help because I'm mad at him. Yeah.
We could have done better as a couple, but you live and you learn.
Yeah.
What about you?
What's done is done.
Yeah, right. Do you have any experiences that you want to share? I know there's probably a lot, but any like spooky ones, or maybe your first one? I don't know if you want to talk about The Grudge now or later, but I'm still thinking about that when you brought that up.
I mean, that's messed up for sure. We can talk about that. So I'll do that and I'll do another one. So at the time I was so young, I didn't realize like this is what's happening. But I definitely, like Katie has described, and she probably will share in the future. I don't want to speak for her, but I talked about in the last episode how I travel in dreams, essentially. I if you want to call it astral projecting, I like to say traveling. I journey during my dreams. And the ones that I remember, they are very vivid, and they are like, if people are in them, I feel that they are right next to me. So, but not knowing this at a young age, this would have been high school, so I would have been like 13, 14, maybe 15. And like I said, the house I was in wasn't so much, I don't think it was the house. It might be, we all have to consider the land itself, what happened on the land where you build a home when it's new and there's things occurring. I don't really know much of the history of the land I was on, but you have to figure I'm in Pennsylvania, so a lot of land was settled. Who did they take it from? What happened on the land for that to happen? The area that I'm in, there's been a lot of death. So sometimes I'm like, this land is freaking cursed where I live. So there's that. And we lived like in more, we didn't live in town. So I kind of have to think of all that when I'm telling the story. And I had basically, some of this could have been suggestion. Some of it could literally just been a night terror, but I'll add on to the story that makes me think it's not so much those things. So when I was younger, I would have these dreams, and they were very vivid, and they were feeling very, very real, that a thing that resembled the girl from The Grudge would come up the stairs and come into my room. Yeah, it would come into my room and basically hold me down, and I would fight it. I would fight it every single time, and it almost like it was trying to like suck the life from me, essentially. I would wake up and be like, like, you know what I mean? You take a deep breath in, and it's like, maybe it was sleep apnea, but I was in very good shape at this time. Like, you know what I mean? I was an athlete all throughout high school. I've never had it confirmed that I have sleep apnea. And I would immediately, during those times in those dreams, I would literally feel myself like fighting to like get this thing away from me. And I was obviously still practicing Christian, so I would start to pray. And
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Well, actually, I would say Hail Mary, like, or my St. Michael's prayer. So, and I'd wake up and I'd be like, and like there were times I felt like this thing was like jostling in my sleep. I felt at one point it flipped me over, and like, you know, when you, I think I've maybe mentioned it to my parents once, and like they were not helpful whatsoever. And it went on for a while, and then it kind of stopped, essentially. And I don't know why. I don't know why it stopped. I don't know why it started. But later, I had talked to someone, a mentor of mine, who is also, she sees things. She's a medium. And she described she used to work at a local hospital in our area, and it's known to have some paranormal activity in that hospital. It's so old. And she said, I guess there was a patient that she talked to or someone that she knew that had been in a coma. And that alone, I'm like, I hope I'm never in a coma after hearing this, because it was apparently pure hell that this girl went through. But she said there was a girl that had dark hair, an entity that had dark hair that would just be perched in her room. She was aware that this being was dark and was evil, and it was frightening, but then she was also very aware of a being who was there to protect her. And it was like a battle almost. The whole time she was in this coma, she was aware of this like dark thing. And like when this person described this to me, I was like, that's what I saw. Literally a sleep paralysis demon that would just like be on me. And she had like commented that she had seen things like crawl out of the sewers essentially in our town, which I believe. This town is full of a lot of pain and death. So yeah, that kind of confirmed to me that I wasn't making it up.
I stopped breathing.
And yeah, and it's
sheesh. You used the word perched, and I'm like, done. I'm out of here. Yeah. You used perched. Let's look at that. Perched. Let's think about it. Is anyone else visual out there? I'm imagining not okay. Not okay. And you know, not to like interrupt, but like that just made me flash back when my older brother was young. He used to see a girl with dark hair peek around the corners at him. And my parents thought he was crazy. And he was bullied a lot as a kid. So it ended up coming down to he needs a psychologist. And it's because he's being bullied and all this other stuff. But now you're talking about this girl. And I just had a flashback to that because this girl's a thing. A thing.
It's a thing. It's a thing. That's not nice.
Anyone else? Oh my God. Please tell us. Is anyone else experiencing this girl with dark hair? Because maybe there's more than one, or maybe it's just one. I don't know.
Well, where does, like, you have to think about, like, the story of The Grudge or The Ring is rooted in some truths, right? Is rooted in someone's imagination.
Why would you suggest that?
I mean, think about it. Where does that come from? And, like,
I was hoping imagination.
Well, The Grudge is based on a Japanese version. Like, the original version is Japanese, so it's like maybe it's rooted in like a demon from that culture. You know what I mean? Sleep paralysis demons are a thing. So that was lots of fun, and I've experienced maybe a time or two where that's occurred now, but I feel that my resources now to like call in protection and ask for help from my team, my spiritual team, is like way above where I was, because I just have more knowledge and I obviously have protective measures in my room. So that does not occur very often, and if it does, I feel way more prepared. Plus now some of my stuff sometimes gives me warnings if something's going to occur, which brings me to my next story.
Wait, is it still the girl that visits you? Does she still pop around? Does she still come around and perch?
No, she does not.
I was going to say,
she's banned from the club.
Okay.
She's not getting any more of this.
I was just wondering.
Well, this is, we talk about shadow people. This is the Hat Man. I don't know how many of you have heard of the Hat Man, but it sounds just like it is. It's this faceless, formless, essentially, being who thrives on fear, which is why I brought up fear in the beginning, because things will feed off of your fear. So while you don't want to be a cotton-headed ninny muggins, you also don't want to be like fearful, because there are tools out there. So this was like kind of early on when my abilities really started taking flight, so to speak. And I just got this feeling. I was like, I had actually heard a podcast about the Hat Man. And I was like, okay, maybe power of suggestion. But I was like, I don't believe in coincidences anymore, really. And it was like maybe a day or two to a week later that I was like, I feel like I'm going to be like visited by something. If it's not the Hat Man, it's something similar. I just had this feeling. So I kind of steadied myself and readied myself. And damn it, the one night, if I didn't wake up and I wasn't dreaming, I was like, it's kind of in that liminal space between dreaming and being awake, where I like felt something in the house that I'm currently in. I felt this presence there, and I look at the foot of my bed and it's him. And it's freaking terrifying, but I was like, nope, we're not dealing with this today. So I immediately call in my ancestors, and I'm like, if you can just protect me, like I don't want to do this right now. I want to go back to sleep.
How did you do that? Were you like talking out loud or just closing your eyes?
In my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I communicate with my ancestors in my mind, and I talk to them too. But all of a sudden I just see light, like white lights come around me. There were like 3 to 4 of them, and they just surround him. They surround the figure, and it's like a void. It's not like a person's shadow. It's literally void. And he goes away, and I really haven't had, a problem since, but it's
you messed with the wrong bitch today.
I might be crazy, I might not.
Might be crazy,
but it is terrifying because it's dark, of course. The night is when the spiritual realm comes alive, and we're awake during the morning and the day, and they're at night, which is okay. The night isn't bad. I've had amazing revelations and things during the nighttime. I've learned to not be afraid of the nighttime, because sometimes that's when they're trying to communicate important things to you. So it's not always fear. It's just the unknown. And you have to think, with it we talked about it being a veil, the veil will distort how things look. So imagine what we look like to the spiritual realm. Maybe we look scary to them, right? And maybe that's why maybe that's why that spirit was afraid. Because he's like, what the heck is in my bed? You know what I mean? So you have to consider that. You have to consider that. Yeah. Because it's like a drape, and things get distorted as you're looking through a drape, right?
Oh my God, my psychologist once brought up a point where he was like, because he believes in the spiritual world, and he's done a lot of work. He's done a lot of work there. With spirit, but I didn't know that until recently, and I've been seeing him for a long time. But but he was sharing, like, and he put this in a really good perspective. But we have radio, and radio picks up sound waves to relay different things that are happening. We can't see those waves. We don't see that translation of communication that's happening. Same thing with the television. Same thing with your phone. All of that is traveling somewhere somehow. We just can't visually see it, but it's there. Microwaves, everything like that has these different types of waves. Frequency, sound waves, all of those things, but we just don't see it. And we just haven't made a device capable of measuring or showing the spiritual realm yet. But it is an energy that needs to be, or not needs to be, maybe not, but it is an energy that possibly could be captured if the right device existed. And I know a lot of ghost hunters and things like that have a lot of tools and materials that I don't know much about, but would be cool to learn about for those kinds of things. But it's still developing. But just a cool thought to think about.
Very much. And you could say that maybe those who are sensitive have more of what we need to measure it and experience it, and their minds are more open. That's why whenever you do, it's so important, whenever you do any workings, we can call them, any ritual, that you cast protection in the beginning, and you ask your team to be there and protect you, because again, you're opening a door to your mind, and then once you're finished, you want to make sure that door is shut and locked. So you always want to close out, because I think anyone, even if it's just tarot, even if like whatever it is, you gotta close out. You gotta call in that protection, because you don't want to leave a door like that to your mind open, because some good things can come in and out, but just like we talked about, some weird things, some things you don't necessarily want to have access to you can also come through. So yeah, just saying.
I just had a moment of like, when I went into my gong bath, I kicked the door open like Shania Twain, like I was like, let's go girls. And they were like, bitch, you don't come in here like that.
They were like, they were like, excuse you. Yeah.
We'll send you somewhere. Here you go.
Yeah. Loving correction. Loving correction. Yeah, that's crazy. That's wild.
Gosh. And these are just some of our stories.
Yeah.
I
can't wait to share the one that was, I'm excited to share the one that was wild to me. That really, because I have a very disbelieving mind as well. So this one was we'll share sometime the clincher for me, that I was like, holy crap, I guess this is happening. Because we should share, I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, I'd love to share when we initially maybe started on their journeys, because I think a lot of people have this, where you tried to run. Where you tried to turn the boat around, turn the car around, and go the other way, because that's super interesting. And it's normal. It's normal to have disbelief. I ever
ran away. I think this is me in everyday life with everything. I'm all in, and then I ignore it, and then I'm all in, and then I ignore it. So I didn't run away, but I was like, this doesn't exist right now. But
I feel like
is that running away?
I think that's running away.
Yeah, I'm in the runaway phase right now, actually, because I've purposely, and I have to, because I emotionally cannot handle all of this back to back. And as we get into more of our stories, like, and you'll see, and it's like the more you open up to this shit, the more it happens to you, which is not bad. Yeah. But I haven't quite mastered controlling and protecting my own specific energy. I become one with whatever the fuck is happening to me, and it drains me to the core. I mean, drains me. So we
can work on that.
Yeah,
that's why we're here.
It's on the list of to-dos. That's part of the not right now. Yeah. I'll do that later.
It's part of the journey.
Keep that door closed and locked for right now. Come back.
I know, right?
I lost the key. Woohoo!
I'm just imagining you like, it's like when you got to clean your house when someone's coming over and you don't really have time to red up, so you just grab everything and you stuff it into a closet.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, we'll deal with that later, you know?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's okay. We all do it. There's no right or wrong way, you know?
Yeah, there's a better way.
There is, but we'll find it. Yeah. It's growth.
I enjoy it, but I have to do it in spurts, you know? Like I said, the more I tap in, you know, the more I experience. So I have to be ready for what's coming. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if we want to talk about for protection real quick here at the end, there's lots of things you can do that we described throughout this whole entire podcast. Frame of mind, diet, taking care of your physical body is a huge way to do protection, because then you have the resources to have the energetically protecting yourself, whether it's people, places, you know, your general mindset is super important, because things will feed off of depression, things will feed off of sadness, all that kind of stuff is like food, it's a buffet. So maintaining yourself mentally is super important too. And then in terms of, you know, if you're into the crystal thing, black stones in general are very protective. So tourmaline, obsidian, onyx, all that kind of stuff is great. Even things that you enjoy wearing, you can make it into a talisman. And it can just be as simple as like having it, like Katie has described, having an intention. It doesn't have to be a ton of pomp and circumstance. It can literally just be simple things that you do that don't take much time.
This thing makes me feel good. This thing makes me feel safe. This thing, I'm drawn to this. I prefer it. I like it. I may not know why. Those are the things. And sometimes it's not just crystals. Sometimes it's a picture or a pendant or certain smell, like burning a certain scent, a candle or incense, or wearing a shirt that makes you feel good and safe, and sitting comfortably or laying comfortably when you're setting these intentions, and just
it doesn't have to be
fancy,
like, typically magical,
right?
Like, some people love that. Some people do what you feel drawn to. There's no right way necessarily to do it. There is a guidebook, there's lines that you can follow, but you don't have to. Right?
Yeah, and we have so much to share about all of those things. We'll have other podcasts to talk about them more if you're interested.
Yeah, But we thank you all for tuning in. We hope we didn't scare you too much.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like our stories were gonna be scarier than what they were, but I don't know. My palms are sweating still from yours. Like I'm
glad they're not. I'm glad they're not.
I wasn't looking at myself at all because I have something else up on my screen in front of myself because I don't like looking at it. But I can imagine I'm like, you'll probably
we
hear
were
me
both
swallowing.
leaning in like,
oh my god, girl, it was whew, we just went on a journey.
Mm-hmm. We got a lot of things on the agenda, but we hope you all, if you are celebrating, have a blessed sound, a safe Halloween if you're going to be out trick-or-treating with the kiddos, or if you're going to be going to parties this weekend, just be safe and enjoy yourself. It's a wonderful time of year. Fall is here, so yeah. But yeah, this is Soul Wild signing off. I'm Kate.
I'm Katie.
And talk to you next time.